Hello. I uh, I have been thinking about two stories, real life stories, and the first one happened, I don't know, 6 months ago, or more than 6 months, and the other one happened last week, and I got to know about it today. And it was like in that movie Castaway, where Chuck Nolan says that it was like a warm blanket, the feeling you get. And I felt like that because it made me believe that sometimes, or many times, abusers get exactly the taste of their own actions. And it was comforting. It gave me a little peace, and I would like to share this feeling because I know how comforting it is to know that abusers get what they deserve. And the first story I have to tell you, and it's good that as I tell you this, it's going to give me hope and more comfort. There was a PhD professor in my post-graduation course. He was old 65 years. Okay? He was maybe the cliche professor. They are, and I know that in the United States you have the same kind of professor, and maybe it's international too. You know, they are, the great majority of professors are abusers. This particular one, he was non-committed. He was not dedicated to his job. You, his classes where you could feel that he didn't care about anything, about his profession. He didn't care about what he was doing. He didn't care if his words would help students or not. Completely uncommitted. You could feel that he was doing it just because it was a heavy burden for him to do it, to give classes, to be at the university. And it is so annoying. You go to university and it's so annoying to see a professor like this. It is toxic. Instead of forming new professors, which was the course I was in, they destroy the they are the shame of the profession. And it is an unjustifiable behavior. Okay, 6 months ago, or more than 6 months, the following thing happens. I get to know that this professor was dead. Okay, that's not. I felt it was not my problem. I was very angry at that post-graduation course, and I will tell that story later. So I avoided reading further. I even thought to myself, well, good riddance. Who cares? Because teachers and professors like this, they don't care if a student lives or dies. I said, well, they wouldn't even, what would they think if I was the one that had just died? Do you think professors would care, being the abusers that they are? No way. So I didn't spend a single thought about it. Later, I decided to read, well, what happened? I had no more emotional involvement. I said, I don't care. I think what happened with that abuser? Maybe this can teach me something. And then I read. This professor went to a motel and there he stayed for 2 hours with another man. The security cameras got them going inside the motel. There, according to the murderer's version of the story, they had an argument. The professor began to be emotionally aggressive with the murderer. And you know professors, they think they are better than you. And when I read the murderer say, well, he started to be aggressive with me with words, I said, that's so typical. I faced it many times. And then, well, the murderer says he was aggressive with me, and I punched him in the face. The professor started to yell, and the murderer says that he got scared and choked the professor. And the relationship was going on for 2 months. And the murderer says, I got scared, I choked the professor. I don't know if choking is the right word. The murderer said he strangled the professor. And I did some research, and I said, well, this method, why is this method used? And I discovered that it is usually related to crimes of passion. So it has an emotional tone to kill somebody by strangling the victim. And well, the murderer, once the victim was dead, the murderer says he didn't know the victim was dead. He put the body in the car and drove out of the motel and left the professor in the car next to a shopping mall. And finally the murderer they discovered who he was, and he's now in jail. But there's another fact. The murderer was a married man who was already being searched by the police because of domestic violence. He abused his woman, and he was already being searched. What can we see in this story? First, abusers, they get along with other abusers. And when they find another abuser who are like themselves, then when they do that, when they abuse the other person emotionally, probably saying that he wants to end the relationship, they are going to taste the consequences of their actions in the same manner. The professor was aggressive. He was belittling the murderer. He received the same aggression. And this professor probably might have been aggressive in the past. I know he was in his own profession. With me, he never was directly aggressive, but maybe passive aggressive. Because he didn't work straight. I was his student once, and a few months later he didn't even know who I was. They don't care. They have no commitment. They don't care who you are, if you were a student or not. He ignores students. I know he used to. Well, it doesn't make any difference if you exist or not. Now he went and did the same thing with a man who was being already. This man had troubles with the law already. He was being searched because he was a violent man and he was aggressive toward his wife. The professor ended up being killed by the person he chose. And you see, aggressors, abusers, they like other abusers. They choose to be with other abusers. And you observe well who that person likes to hang out with. It is a cliche, but I think in this story it applies. If the guy walks with bad people, that shows he's also a bad person. So this professor finally found the consequences of his actions. The second story comes from a family, and they have a very abusive son. This guy was the son of an alcoholic, so he learned through his father's example how to be a man. You know, the man is the one who drinks more. The man is the one who shows his masculinity. Will never let other people hit him. The man is the one who fights and wins the fight. And this education costed the practically the well-being of the whole family, because this guy now is an addict. He's an abuser. Once he came here into my house with one of his girlfriends, and the girlfriend didn't even look me in the face. I said, this is so rude. This girl come into my house, and I say hi, and she doesn't respond to my greeting, and she doesn't even look me in the face. Later, I discovered that it's because this guy, this abuser, he was so jealous of his girlfriend that he couldn't stand even her having any visual contact with any other guy, including me. This girl was being controlled to such an extent. Well, in the end, he hit her, and the relationship ended. He found other girlfriends, and the same story. He hit the girlfriends. He used drugs. He's a drug addict. His father told me that he has bipolar tendencies, and this time I mean bipolar. And I don't know if he has any other personality disorders. He probably does, because his father told me that once he said he tried to kill himself. He was saved by one of his friends, and his father told me that he said, my life is not worth anything. There's nothing good in my life. My life is not there, has no use. Everything goes wrong in my life. And the father said, well, you never do anything to make your life better. What are you doing to make your life better? And this guy said, I'm gonna kill myself because my life is worthless. You see, people with personality disorder, this is so typical. 3 months ago, this guy hit his new girlfriend. Not her girlfriend, he already has a son with this woman. He had one of his many crises, abusive crises. He hit her, and then the police came, and then his little son said, well, my father says he was going to kill my mother. He told the officers. And then this guy got so mad because his little son, who's probably 5, he was so mad because his little son told this to the officers in an innocent. He was innocent. He didn't know what he was doing. He said, I'm gonna kill you and your mother. I'm gonna kill everybody. And the father tried to talk some reason to the guy, and the guy was really raging. He said, I'm gonna kill you, Dad. I'm gonna kill you, my son, because you told the police officers that I was saying that I was gonna kill your mom, and I'm gonna kill your mom too. I'm gonna kill everybody. And then this guy was arrested, and I don't know what the police officers did to him, if he was arrested only for a day and they dumped him in some place. And I thought, well, this abuser is not gonna get what he deserves. He's not gonna be punished. This abuser is not gonna receive any consequences for his actions. Okay, last week, maybe Thursday, he had to appear before the judge, and he didn't even almost enter the courtroom. He was arrested. This guy is now in jail, because here in Brazil we have the law that if you hit a woman, you go to jail. And this guy is now in jail. They told me he doesn't take a shower for 4 days. He's in a horrible shape. and he's finally receiving the consequences for his actions, for his aggression, for his abusive ways. I heard another story that this guy, he was in the bus and the children were being loud, as almost all children are, and he raged at the children. He threw he threw the cell phone of the children on the ground in the bus. He abused the children. He said, you're gonna be silent now, or I'm gonna kick your asses. This is the kind of behavior this guy shows. The macho man. Nobody messes with me. But now he's facing time. He's in jail. They say he's in a horrible shape. Doesn't take shower. And I wanted to say this. Abusers, they may win many fights, but they end up losing the war. One day they're gonna face the consequences of their aggressive actions. And this brings comfort to me. And I guess it brings comfort to many victims of abusers. Because one day they're gonna mess with the wrong kind of person. These abusers are gonna find another abusers like themselves, and then they're gonna taste the venom of their own ways, and the consequences of their actions will come. And they will lose the war. If the abuser won a fight with you, let's not lose sight of the idea that one day he's gonna lose the war. Thanks for your time.